Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I thought I might talk you through the process of how I came to title my book An Heir to Murder. If you didn't know, on the 12th of February 2020, the first book in a series of cosy crime novels, An Heir to Murder, will be released, written by me. However, this hasn't always been the title. If we're to go back far enough, let's say 2018, let's say 2017, when I originally planned this book. The title I came up with was a title that was a bit of a pun, which came from the fact that I knew my characters would be investigating the death of an heir 50 years ago to try and solve the murder of a detective in the modern day. 50 years ago, I knew that the heir would be killed by getting bashed around the head. So our title at this time was The Heirs on His Head, as in heirs. H-E-I-R''S. I thought that this was a fantastically punny title. When I came to write it, I did it with the acronym THOHH, and this is how I sent it out to all of my beta readers, with that little acronym on the front, without revealing what the actual title would be, as I was keeping this book a secret and I didn't necessarily want them to know. When the title was finally revealed to my beta readers, they didn't think it worked, nor did I think it worked. And they had no ideas for titles, and some of them did come up with ideas and sent them to me, but none of them felt right. Whilst I can't find the entire list of names that I created over weeks of trying to come up with a title, I thought I'd share a few with you. So, when The Heirs on His Head fell through, I immediately thought, well, Greenfields is a place that has always come up in every version of the cozy crime. Indeed, it gets brought up in Our Doris and Indisputably Doris. I think I even mentioned one of the characters' names in Indisputably Doris as who lives there. And so I thought I would call it The Mystery of Greenfields Hall, because obviously once that mystery is solved, we're meant to find the murderer. Nope, wasn't quite right. So then I came up with A Sterling Murder, because Arthur Sterling is being killed. Heirs and Graces. However, spelled H-E-I-R-S. And there are a lot of books called that already. Then we've gone with Bees and Butterflies and Murder. And that one came about because whilst I was reading it again, I discovered that there were a lot of times I had written bees and butterflies to describe spring. Then we have My Murderous Valentine, because obviously the main character's name is Valentine. See where I'm going with this? But yeah, never going to work because it just isn't right. Then we had Murder in Partridge Mews or Death in Partridge Mews, and I didn't like that, not because it gave you the setting, but because then I felt like I'd always have to come up with something in Partridge Mews, and that would make it a bit difficult for me. So you'd have, as you can see, murder and death, but genocide, matricide, all those sorts of words, and I didn't want to get stuck in like that way of titling. Then we had Last of the Summer Fate, which was never going to be a title. It just got stuck in my head because of Last of the Summer Wine, and that was where this idea originally was sparked. Then you had The Mystery of Christopher Partridge, who's a character in the book. I'm not going to say the next title because it was a huge spoiler. Then we had Death of a Detective. No. And also I think that's a title by MC Beaton. This kind of thing doesn't happen in Partridge Mews. No. Murder Most Antisocial? Obviously, you have the Murder Most type books, and antisocial was because that's the thing Alice gets accused of being throughout the entire thing, as does Arthur, as does Marmaduke, so it seemed fitting. Then just Valentine and Featherstone, which is what I'm titling the series now. A Dying Breed. Yeah, very vague, that one. And then Heads Down. Or Keep Your Heads Down. I have no idea what I was thinking with that one. Then we had Don't Lose Your Head and A Deadly Inheritance. Now, A Deadly Inheritance might actually be what spurred on the final title. A Deadly Inheritance was sparked by this idea that Alice is inheriting a house from her dead auntie, but with it, it brings all these other things. She's inheriting the mystery from Arthur's death of what happened to Christopher Partridge 50 years ago. And there was a lot of this feeling like people were inheriting stuff in this book. I remember being stood at the till at work, which seems to be where I get some of my best ideas, apparently. And I was stood at the till, and I'm just thinking about the title. And originally I thought of Heir. You know, I thought of Heir again. I realised that, as I've just said, it means a lot of different things. The characters and different characters are inheriting different things. And so I originally planned to call it Heir to Murder. And then I realised I didn't like the sound of that, but I like the sound of An Heir to Murder. I found a little scrap of paper we have beneath the till, and I wrote An Heir to Murder ? And this piece of paper followed me around for a few days. I immediately stuck it into my notebook that was in my bag. I went home and I messaged Lindsay in Berlin. Then I didn't actually email anyone else with the title at the time, because I was that worried that if I put it out into the universe that something might happen to the title, it would get known and it might get leaked. I don't know why I wanted to be so secretive about this book. And so I wrote that title down on that piece of paper, and then the next Thursday I saw Joy at the writers group and asked her for her thoughts, and every person who'd read the book I asked what they thought of An Heir to Murder, and it just seemed fitting. It seemed like we had it. And so that is why, well, that is how my book came to be known as An Heir to Murder. And I know it might feel like I'm going to get caught in the trap then of having to have murder in every one of my titles. And I do have the mention of murder in my next title, which is for the second book in the series, which is planned, similar to how An Heir to Murder was planned. But you'll hear more about that in future. We have some more books to get through before I am able to release the sequel. But it will be worth the wait, don't you worry. As I say, An Heir to Murder will be released on the 12th of February, and as was pointed out to me last week, it would have been more appropriate for me to release the book on the 14th of February, because my character is called Alice Valentine. But I don't think about these marketing things in advance, and that is to my detriment. Either way, I hope that you enjoyed hearing more about this book, and if you're going to be picking it up, let me know in the comments. I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.